Fellas, Saudi Arabia was the place for UFC Whittaker versus Chimaev. We're going to be breaking down every single fight on this card that went down, the massive main event and the co-main event that we need to talk about, and basically everything significant that went down on this event. Let me know your thoughts on the event as a whole. I thought this was one of the greatest fight nights of all time, at least on paper, and it definitely performed in the main card. We're going to be going over every single fight on this card. I will put some timestamps in the comments as well so you can go to specific fights. And in terms of predictions, I got every single fight on this card correct besides the Gafurov fight and the Pavlovich fight. I don't think anyone was seeing that Volkov fight coming, but we'll get straight into the first fight. Fun little scrap in the first round between Shulong and Shang Ho Li. Well, the first fight between Shulong and Shang Ho Li. Shang Ho Li got it done by decision and is now going to earn a UFC contract after winning the road to the UFC. Yeah, this was a good fight. If there was one word to describe this fight, it would be knees in the clinch. Well, that's not one word, is it? But you know what I mean? There was so much knees in the clinch by Shang Ho Li. He attempted about 400,000 knees in this fight. It was insane. Both of these guys absolutely exhausted after the first round, and it seemed to be a decently fun fight. I mean, after the third round, it kind of got a little bit slugfesty. Both of these guys were absolutely exhausted, but it was a good win for Shang Ho Li. Shulong started off really well. He seemed to be landing the better shots, and he was defending every takedown that came from Shang Ho Li, which is why I picked him to win, because of the takedowns, but he didn't really get any he didn't really do anything major with his grappling, but most of the work was done on the feet by Shang Ho Li in the clinch, which was able to get him the win. He's now going to earn a UFC contract, and for Shulong, he was a fun guy. It was a fairly close fight. It wasn't like Shang Ho Li absolutely dominated him, but good win for Shang Ho Li, and decent way to start off the card. It was a nice little brawl. Nothing much I can say about this fight. It wasn't anything crazy, but a lot of clinch work in this fight. Like this, it wouldn't surprise me if they had the most knees attempted in UFC history in this one fight alone. So good win for Shang Ho Li. I picked him to win. So we're going good so far on the card, 1-on-1. Then we had Gadzhiyasulov versus Brenton Ribeiro. Very, very dominant, grappling dominant heavy fight from Gadzhiyasulov in this fight. Throughout the entire of the second and the third round, that was a very, very dominant win. That first round was the most interesting round of the fight, though, because it was actually Ribeiro that took down Gadzhiyasulov in that first round, and then Gadzhiyasulov started grabbing the cage, and that wasn't the first time he did this as well. I'm pretty sure he grabbed it in the second round, and then in the third round, he grabbed it with his toes as well. So, yeah, not the cleanest fighter as Gadzhiyasulov. Kind of reminds me a bit of Mohamed Naimov because he's also quite dirty. But for the rest of the fight, yeah, very, very dominant pace from Gadzhiyasulov with his wrestling. A good Dagestani prospect. Not the most interesting guy to watch, does it? And I feel like he could have got the submission in the second. I predicted him to get the submission in the second, and it was actually Brenton Ribeiro that nearly got the submission with that guillotine in the second round. But after that guillotine attempt, he was done for the rest of the fight. He seemed super gassed. There was even a point at the end of the third round when there was like 10 seconds left where Gadzhiyasulov got up and gave him a chance to get up, but Ribeiro didn't want any part of it. He was just lying there like he'd just woken up. But good win from Gadzhiyasulov. He's a pretty decent prospect in the UFC. Not the cleanest fighter, but he's a decent prospect, undefeated as well. And for Brenton Ribeiro, like I said coming into the fight, he's a dangerous striker. He just needs to work on his technique and his gas tank, because that gas tank don't exist, and he's a very, very sloppy striker. But good win for Gadzhiyasulov there. Then we had Muin Gafurov versus Kyung Ho Kang. Good win for Muin Gafurov in that fight. There's the first fight on the card I got predicted incorrectly. Yeah, this was just a clash of styles that Muin Gafurov was able to get the better of. It was actually quite an interesting fight. Muin Gafurov was doing the much better on the feet. He looked way more dangerous. He was landing the better shots, and Kyung Ho Kang was only striking to set up the takedowns as I expected. And there was a point in that second round when Muin Gafurov landed a really good combination. He landed a couple punches to the body, to the head, and then a kick to end it off. And Kyung Ho Kang really didn't like that. And then at the end of the third round, there was a point where he dropped Kyung Ho Kang, nearly finished him as well. I would have gone as far to say that if there would have been 10 or 15 more seconds on that third round, I think Gafurov could have got a finish, but he got it done. I thought Kyung Ho Kang would have kept the grappling pace on for a little bit longer, but I don't understand his fight IQ in this fight. He left himself open a lot to get reversed in this fight, which I didn't really like. Like, he wouldn't really try and get up. He wouldn't really try and scramble. He just immediately allowed Gafurov to take the back and take the reversal, which ended up with Gafurov having some grappling exchanges as well, which went in his favour. But overall, good win for Gafurov. Interesting on the feet. Had much better striking than Kyung Ho Kang and was able to get it done at the end of the night. Then we had Rinat Fakhretdinov versus Nicholas Dalby. Now, before I get into the fight itself, I had to take my headphones off like halfway through this fight, not because of the commentary this time, but because of Nicholas Dalby. What is up with this guy's breathing technique? It was actually getting to the point where I was getting exhausted of every second just hearing this guy breathing in and out heavily. If you were listening on the broadcast, you know what I'm talking about. This guy's breathing technique is so irritating to listen to. But no, Rinat Fakhretdinov gets it done. Still an absolute monster. He's pretty. The thing that makes Fakhretdinov pretty dangerous is because he's also got really effective and accurate striking. He's able to land shots. I feel like if you went for the kill a little bit more on the feet, it'd be way more effective, but he tends to kind of use his striking to settle the takedowns. For example, I think it was in that first round, towards the end of that first round, he had Dalby kind of wobbled and then immediately just shot for a takedown, and it happened a few other times in the fight. Nicholas Dalby was good. He had really good combinations on the feet, but the grappling definitely went to Fakhretdinov. This guy is, again, one of the best grappling prospects in the welterweight division, and it's not, before long, there's not long left before this guy is going to get a ranked fighter. He's beaten, well, he didn't beat him, but he had a draw with obviously Zaleski DeSantis, and now that he's beaten Nicholas Dalby, who's a really good win, it's only a matter of time before we see Fakhretdinov face another ranked welterweight. But yeah, he's such a killer as Fakhretdinov. Really, really good grappling prospect, and he must be just so irritating to fight, how he just lands on the feet, clips you on the feet, and then the second you get to defend, he just immediately goes for the takedown. It was the decent fight, probably the best fight on the card so far, but I'm definitely not the best to listen to with Nicholas Dalby's breathing techniques. But no, Rinat Fakhretdinov, I came into this fight saying that he's a dangerous, dangerous guy, and even though I would like him to push for the finish more, what he's doing is obviously working. He's a really good grappling prospect, and I just really want to see this guy face a ranked opponent. I will do a matchmaking video tomorrow, but yeah, Rinat Fakhretdinov back in the win column as I expected to, but definitely a somewhat competitive fight. I mean, Nicholas Dalby was putting up a fight on the feet, and obviously in that first round had a very heavy wrestling style, but yeah, great win for Fakhretdinov, and we'll keep forward to see what he does next. Then we had Mohamed Naimov versus Felipe Lima. Welcome to the UFC, Felipe Lima. I'm glad that he was able to do that for Mohamed Naimov. The fight itself, actually a really good fight on the feet. It was very, very competitive on the feet, but Felipe Lima, he's so quick on the feet. And even though Naimov looked like he'd improved a lot on the feet since his fight with Nathaniel Wood, I'm glad that Felipe Lima got this one, because I kind of had a bitter taste in my mouth when it came to Mohamed Naimov after his fight with Nathaniel Wood. The cheating, the cage grabbing, the biased referee in that fight. He cheated a lot in that fight with Nathaniel Wood, and I'm glad that Felipe Lima was able to come over to the UFC and get a really solid win. He's now, I would argue that he could even deserve a ranked opponent if he is staying in the UFC, because beating Mohamed Naimov, I mean, if Naimov would have won this fight, if he'd have got, Nathaniel Wood and Felipe Lima, no doubt he probably would have got a ranked opponent. So for Felipe Lima, I wouldn't mind seeing this guy face a ranked opponent. He's obviously got really good grappling, as he was able to reverse Mohamed Naimov, get the rear naked choke, and then on the feet, this guy is just super quick on the feet, really good at chopping the leg, really quick boxing. Felipe Lima looks like one of the best, featherweight prospects if he is to stay in the UFC, so I hope he does stay in the UFC. He looks really impressive. He's not just a Val Woodburn that has been brought over to the UFC. He's like a sacrificial lamb. He's actually really talented, and for Mohamed Naimov, that is what you get for cheating against Nathaniel Wood. But no, Naimov's good. He's obviously got good wrestling, and he's obviously improved a lot on the feet, but ain't good enough to beat Felipe Lima. Let's go Felipe Lima. First finish of the card, and I didn't predict this fight because obviously it was supposed to be with Melzik, and obviously Melzik pulled out. So I didn't predict this fight, but I'm glad that Felipe Lima was able to get it done. Let's go Felipe. Then we had Nasrat Haqparast versus Jared Gordon. Before I get into the fight itself, the UFC must absolutely hate Jared Gordon. This dude has some weird curse where wherever he's in like a close fight, he gets robbed. He gets one of the biggest robberies of 2022 against Paddy Pimblett, and now he's just been robbed against Nasrat Haqparast. I feel so bad for Jared Gordon. I even picked Nasrat Haqparast to win, and Jared Gordon, in my opinion, still had that one in the books. Another thing I'm going to get into before the fight itself is the Saudi crowd must be the only crowd in the UFC who would cheer an uneventful grappling exchange, but then boo at an absolute war. Now, the fight itself was an absolute banger. It was high output, back and forth, just boxing. You had the pressure boxing of Jared Gordon. You had the speed of Nasrat Haqparast, especially early on in that fight. As the rounds went on, that's when Jared Gordon used the experience to climb through and Nasrat Haqparast started to slow down. It was a banger. Definitely the best fight on the card up until now, definitely. This was a really, really good fight. A banger between the two of them, and that was what I was expecting. When you put two high output boxers against each other, it's a banger. This was definitely been one of the best fights we've had in June so far. But yeah, the decisions, man, there's something going on with Jared Gordon in the UFC. Whenever this guy has a close fight, I can't help but feel bad for him. The judges just sway it the other way. I'm not going to try and complain too much because it was a really good fight. Definitely as of right now, the best fight on the card. But man, I feel bad for Jared Gordon. Nasrat Haqparast did really well as well. He was really fast in that first round, and Jared Gordon, I mean, he was much faster than Jared Gordon early on. And I expected Nasrat Haqparast to get the KO in the third round because he was rapidly improving, but Jared Gordon seems to have improved a lot as well. I don't think people give him credit for that. So it was a really good fight, back and forth, absolute war, but I feel bad for Jared Gordon. These judges, they must have something against him. The judges must have put a bet on Nasrat Haqparast. The judges must have been funded by Paddy Pimblett. I don't know what's going on because Jared Gordon, that dude's been robbed again and again. I kind of miss the American, not that the American crowd are the best crowd in the UFC. Obviously, the European crowds, like the UK and France, they're much better, but the Saudi crowd, they might be one of the deadest crowds. They should be cheering in a fight like this. It was an absolute banger. The crowd should have been cheering, but instead they're just booing whenever they see an image of Jared Gordon, or when they see people chanting USA in the crowd. But overall, really good fight, but I've got to disagree with the decision. I thought Jared Gordon won that pretty comfortably, but it was still a banger of a fight, and yeah, it was a good way to nearly end the prelims. Brutal knockout by Volkan Oezdemir, delivering the first knockout on the card, proving that maybe the UFC gloves aren't so cursed after all. I feel like everyone who picked Johnny Walker to win this fight only picked Walker because they don't know enough about Volkan Oezdemir. Now, even though Volkan Oezdemir not have the brightest personality, and he might not be that well known in the light heavyweight division, this guy's really, really underrated hands. I picked him to win by decision. I thought Johnny Walker might be able to put up a little bit more of a fight, but Johnny Walker just ain't that good. Like, you really think of it, the win streak that he put together was against who? Anthony Smith, Paul Craig, and Ian Cutelaba. He never really put together a really good win streak. He's always been super chinny. Volkan Oezdemir just walked him down, landed shots, got the brutal finish in Saudi Arabia, the first KO of the card. I picked Oezdemir to win by decision. He got the KO in the first round, first knockout of the card. Really good win for Volkan Oezdemir. Maybe he's not good enough for the upper echelon of the light heavyweight division, but I feel like Volkan Oezdemir might be a good kind of Alexander Volkov of the light heavyweight division, like a good gatekeeper to the top 5. Maybe you'll never see Volkan Oezdemir being able to beat the elite people in the division like Yuri Prohaska. I mean, he got KO'd by him and a couple of the other guys at the top, but he will always shut down these other guys. And for Johnny Walker, he's still a fun striker to watch. Maybe he can be like a gatekeeper for the top 10, but he needs to stay far away from these dangerous contenders because Johnny Walker's too goofy, too chinny. I don't know how he made it outside the first round with Ankalaev, but yeah, he was getting lit up like a Christmas tree. Really good win there for Volkan Oezdemir. Johnny Walker's on his way out. Like, he was on a losing streak, and then he finally put together a winning streak. But like I said, it wasn't against great opponents. Ian Cutelaba, Paul Craig, Anthony Smith, these are the guys that he was beating. And then he gets KO'd by, obviously, his last fight against, he just got KO'd by Volkan Oezdemir, and then before that against Ankalaev. Good win by Volkan Oezdemir. First KO on the card. Hopefully we can see him against a higher ranked light heavyweight now. And for Johnny Walker, like I said, dude, he's just chinny, man. He just don't have it anymore. I know he's a fun guy to watch. He's a fun personality, but he just don't have it. The dude's chinny. He's not really the most effective striker. He doesn't use his 6'6" reach height advantage to how he could. He's just a massive guy for the light heavyweight division. Doesn't use it to his advantage, and he just got walked down by Volkan Oezdemir. Good win by Volkan Oezdemir. I can't wait to see him next. Then we had Shariputta Magomedov versus Antonio Trocoli. Good finish there by Shariputta Magomedov. Basically a dominant striking display for the majority of the fight. Shariputta Magomedov essentially used Antonio Trocoli as his kickboxing punching bag. Trocoli had absolutely nothing to offer other than trying to get Magomedov against the cage in the clinch and trying to take him down, which he was unsuccessful with. Antonio Trocoli, he should have at least used strikes to set up the takedown. I don't recall Trocoli throwing a single strike in that entire fight. And I know he doesn't want to strike with Magomedov because he's one of the best striking prospects in the entirety of the UFC, but you could have at least used like a kick or, a little bit of a combination to set up a takedown. Instead, he kind of just went for the clinch and held that the entire fight and hoped that he was going to win that way. Magomedov, he was able to survive getting taken down, and then on the feet, he essentially just used Antonio Trocoli as his punching bag, just kicking the shit out of his legs, landing big shots on the feet, landing head kicks and body kicks, as we expected to from Magomedov, who, like I said, is one of the best kickboxing prospects in the UFC. But I will say, in that second round, there was a point where Trocoli was really close to taking Magomedov down, and the only reason he didn't is because Magomedov grabbed the cage, and Mark Goddard didn't even take a point or anything like that. And when it was a fence grab of that magnitude, you can't really afford to not take a point. That could have been the difference between Trocoli winning that round and losing that round. Obviously, we saw he got finished regardless, but if that would have gone to a decision, that could have been detrimental. So I feel like Mark Goddard needed to take a point there. But Magomedov got the win. If he does want to progress in the middleweight division, he's going to have to improve his grappling. I'm not saying he hasn't improved it at all, but I'm also not going to act like Trocoli's a terrible grappler. But you need to see more grappling, defense from Magomedov, more efficient grappling defense from Magomedov, because when he climbs the middleweight rank, well, if he actually gets to the middleweight rankings, it's going to be a big problem when the dude is like the only Dagestani fighter that can't wrestle. But on the feet, he's probably, like I said before, my favorite kickboxing prospect in the UFC. He's so crafty with his kicks. I would like to see him face one or two more opponents before he fights a ranked opponent, because like I said, he has beat Bruno Silva, and then obviously he just went on and finished Trocoli as we expected. But I would want to see him against maybe maybe one or two more opponents before he gets a ranked fight. But no, good win from Sharput Magomedov. Definitely one of the biggest prospects in, one of the biggest Dagestani prospects in the UFC. The dude had a lot of pop to his name. And to be honest, I'm excited to see what he does next. He's actually one of my favorite prospects in the UFC, if I haven't told you already. So yeah, Sharput Magomedov, good win. But yeah, maybe he does need to tune his grappling up a little bit more, but solid win from Magomedov there. Then we had Kelvin Gastelum versus Daniel Rodriguez. A lot of controversy going into this fight, obviously, because Kelvin Gastelum couldn't make 170, and I'll talk about that in a second. But the fight itself, it was a pretty good fight. Both of them, well, especially Daniel Rodriguez, absolutely exhausted after that second round, but Kelvin Gastelum seemed to have the better game plan. Pressuring, landing those leg kicks, pressure boxing, and then a couple times in the fight, going for the takedown, getting the control time, which obviously won him the fight. A good little scrap between the two of them. I thought Gastelum would just do enough to get it done. I didn't think Daniel Rodriguez would be able to beat Gastelum, and that was another correct prediction. Now, let me just say, my predictions so far have been absolutely on fire tonight. Someone give me credit, right? Anyway, but no, that's the thing. I worry about the future of Kelvin Gastelum's career, because if this guy is struggling to make 170 now and he's staying at middleweight, which, you know, he's fought at middleweight a lot of the time of his career, but I don't know. I don't know if he's still disciplined. I don't know about the future of Kelvin Gastelum. It seems like he's winning some and then he's losing some. I think he's just going to be one of these guys that fights unranked opponents every now and then. A name that we're all familiar with. Maybe not someone who's going to be climbing the rankings anymore, but it was a decent fight between the two of them. But yeah, the main controversy going into this fight was the weight change by Kelvin Gastelum. But yeah, the fight itself, nothing else I can really say. Both of them seemed absolutely exhausted in that first round. It was a good little back and forth. Both of them landed combinations throughout the fight, and it was just overall a good display of MMA. So yeah, good win for Kelvin Gastelum, I guess, but obviously there's definitely going to be a bit of taste with it in people's mouth after he couldn't make that 170. But good win for Kelvin Gastelum overall. Then we had Sergey Pavlovich versus Alexander Volkov. Fair play. Volkov got it done. Everyone was ratting him off. I did pick Pavlovich to win, but if you watch my prediction video, I said this is like a 50-50 fight. This is so hard to predict. But Pavlovich got it done. A lot of people weren't giving Volkov respect coming into this fight. They saw him as a can. They saw him as just another guy to beat. And to be honest, I do call him a gatekeeper, but that was a really good win by Alexander Volkov there. He just absolutely pieced up Sergey Pavlovich for 3 rounds straight, and now he's on a 4-fight winning streak, 3 of them coming by way of finish. You know what? If Aspinall beats Curtis Blades, and this is assuming that, you know, Jones and Stipe aren't in the talks, but you know what? Whoever wins out of Aspinall and Blades, I wouldn't mind seeing Volkov rematch either of them. He's done enough in this heavyweight division now, and now he's got a really good win as an underdog against Sergey Pavlovich. I think we learned a lot in this fight as well. I think the first thing we learned is that maybe Sergey Pavlovich can't strike with these elite strikers, and I know that might sound crazy considering what we know about Pavlovich, but look at the guys he's beaten at the highest level. He's basically beaten fat brawlers, Tai Tuivasa, Derek Lewis, Curtis Blades. None of those guys are elite strikers. These guys pack a punch, but they ain't elite strikers. They're powerful brawlers. And then the 2 elite strikers in Tom Aspinall and Alexander Volkov that he has faced, he's been KO'd out cold by one of them and absolutely pieced up by the other. And I'm not saying that Pavlovich isn't as good as we think he is. We know that this guy at one time was the absolute killer of the heavyweight division. He has accurate, powerful hands, but you know, this might be a thing that we not like. If we were to match make Sergey Pavlovich against Cyril Gane, I probably wouldn't pick Pavlovich anymore to win because of how good, not how bad he's performing, because it's not like he's getting, you know, well, he is getting battered like he just did against Volkov, but it's not like he's a bad striker, but he's losing to these elite strikers. He just lost to Volkov and Aspinall in a row, so I don't know what's next for Sergey Pavlovich. Maybe somebody outside the top 5 to get some momentum again. It was crazy, though, the momentum this guy had after Curtis Blades, and now he's on a 2-fight losing streak. But for Alexander Volkov, what a win, man. Everyone was writing him off. I said this was a 50-50 fight, but I just about gave it to Pavlovich because at the end of the day, you can't not pick Pavlovich. But Volkov got it done. Fair play to Alexander Volkov. I wouldn't mind him facing somebody for the belt next. And when I say a belt, I mean the interim belt, because obviously we know Jones and Stipe are out of the conversation because they're fighting for the legacy belt, not the real belt. But you know what? The winner of Aspinall versus Blades, rematch Alexander Volkov. I know it was only a few years ago when Aspinall absolutely dominated Volkov, and I think he'd do it again. But with the, you know, the past couple of wins that Volkov's put together, he might have the best case to make for a title shot now in the heavyweight division. The fight, it was just round after round, Volkov absolutely piecing up, and that's what Volkov does best. He pieces people up, and he doesn't go out there and look for the flashy finish. He pieces people up until people have no more. I'm surprised Sergey Pavlovich didn't get, you know, put out in that fight from how, you know, good Volkov was. He's a really underrated kickboxer, and yeah, he's a really, really good contender. The last time he lost was to Tom Aspinall all the way back in 2022. And for Sergey Pavlovich, he's still a dangerous striker. He's still a dangerous, powerful guy. But I think we learned tonight that maybe Pavlovich wouldn't beat the elite strikers of the division. I'm not sure I'd pick Pavlovich to beat a guy like Cyril Gane anymore. or, you know, another elite striker in the heavyweight division after what we've seen tonight. Alexander Volkov, that's a really good win, and he's got some momentum to his name, so that was a dominant performance from Alexander Volkov from there. We learned a lot in this fight. Good win for Volkov. Robert Whittaker does it again like it's nothing. Goes out there, slowly calculates Ikram Aliskerov, lands a big shot, and puts Ikram Aliskerov out cold. Be honest, right? Every single person who picked Ikram Aliskerov to win this fight, you only picked him because he's from Dagestan. Any other circumstance, you weren't picking Ikram Aliskerov to win this fight. Robert Whittaker's back. You know what? I know there's a long list of middleweights right now who want the title shot. There's Sean Strickland, there's Adesanya, who's going to be fighting for the belt at UFC 305, there's Naimov. But Whittaker, he needs to be fighting for the belt in his next fight. I don't care what order it's in. This dude needs to be fighting for the belt in his next fight. Why would you pick Ikram Aliskerov? The dude went from Wally Alves to Robert Whittaker. He's still a good prospect in the UFC, but that is a ridiculous step up in competition, and Robert Whittaker looked like an absolute boss tonight. I'd honestly, right, he's got a good chance of beating Dricus in that rematch. I think he'd beat Sean Strickland. Robert Whittaker, dude went out there, well, how long was that? 2 minutes. He just slowly calculated Ikram Aliskerov and took him out of there. That is what happens when you have a leap in, when you have a big step up that big. Ikram Aliskerov was still a really good prospect. People were saying that he's unbeatable. He's one of the few fighters in the UFC that has no weaknesses. And, well, what happened? We bought on the hype. We gave him a step up in competition way too quick against Robert Whittaker, and he got finished brutally. That is what happens when you have too big of a step up. If Ikram Aliskerov was really a good prospect, you can say that all you want, but we need to build him up. We need to give him fights and then slowly build him up to Robert Whittaker. But that is a statement-making performance from Robert Whittaker, because even though on paper it looks ridiculous that Ikram Aliskerov's getting this shot, the amount of people that were picking Ikram Aliskerov to win this fight was crazy. Robert Whittaker's been around. He's one of the greatest middleweights of all time. This dude is also well-rounded. He went out there, just slept Ikram Aliskerov like it's nothing. And you know what I'm interested to see? These Dagestani fans. Because Dagestani fans love to mock other fighters whenever a fighter loses. They like to mock Poirier. And, you know, whenever a fighter loses to a Dagestani fighter, they love to mock it. But now that Whittaker's gone out there and slept Ikram Aliskerov, I want to see what these guys have to say. That is a really good performance from Robert Whittaker. He's on a 2-fight winning streak now to Paulo Costa and Ikram Aliskerov. He's looked really good, and he's only really lost recently to Dricus du Plessis, because remember, before that Dricus performance, he went out there and dominated Marvin Vettori too. I want Robert Whittaker to get a title shot in his next fight. I don't care who the champion is. He needs to be getting a title shot in his next fight. He keeps having good performances. That is a great performance from Robert Whittaker against Ikram Aliskerov, and even though on paper it might have not been that good, you got to remember, Ikram Aliskerov was labelled as one of the best prospects in the UFC. People were picking Ikram Aliskerov to win this fight, and for Robert Whittaker to do that, even I thought he was going to go to the 3rd round, and the dude did it in like 2 minutes. Dominant win from Robert Whittaker, one of the greatest middleweights of all time, definitely top 3 best middleweights right now as well. I think he'd beat Adesanya in a rematch, I think him and Dricus would be a good fight in a rematch, and I think he'd beat Sean Strickland. Solid win for Robert Whittaker right there, and I know he was training for Khamzat Chimaev, but that's not Robert Whittaker's fault that he pulled out. Chimaev was the one who pulled out. The UFC called, have one of our best prospects in Ikram Aliskerov. He signed the contract, went out there, slept him in Saudi, dominant fashion. Robert Whittaker, get him a title fight in his next fight. I don't care who the champion is or how many contenders we've got. Robert Whittaker needs to be getting a title shot. That is a dominant win from Robert Whittaker. And for Ikram Aliskerov, he had a big step up in competition. To go from Wally Alves to Robert Whittaker is crazy. So I still think there's a couple fights for him that he can have, that, you know, a couple fun fights for him. I think he needs to fight someone maybe unranked, like a Roman Kopylov, maybe I don't know, just somebody out there unranked, and then maybe build himself up, because that was way too big. That dude just went straight into the deep end. Fair play for accepting it, but that is what happens when you face a guy like Robert Whittaker in your, 3rd fight in the UFC? Good win for Robert Whittaker, and what a way to end the night. But overall, solid event. I would say this is one of the greatest fight nights of all time. The only other problems I had with this event was the crowd. I'm not a big fan of the Saudi crowd. I mean, listen, if we're getting cards like that every single time we go to Saudi, sign me up, I don't care. But when you hear the Abu Dhabi crowd and the Saudi crowd, it does kind of make you miss the more European crowds, or even just the plain American crowd, because the atmosphere when the fights were going on weren't amazing. But overall, solid card. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Whittaker got the win, back in the winning column. Probably going to be fighting for a belt next. Pavlovich potentially got, not fraud check, because he's definitely not a fraud after finishing Blades, but maybe got found out a little bit. But overall, solid card. Let me know your thoughts on the card. Cheers for watching.